How do you know when to put your pet to sleep? This is something that recently me and my wife have been asking ourselves. How do you know when it's right to decide to put your pet to sleep? Recently, we did, however, put our beloved cat Kajsa to sleep. She had bad health, and we knew for years that she was in deteriorating health, and this day was always coming. And as a pet owner, you know on some level that someday in the future you're gonna have to make some tough decisions about your pet. But how do you make that decision? Like, if you see that your pet is in pain, well, that might seem like a very simple choice, but when you spend every day together, it's very difficult to let go. And also with pets, it's kind of difficult to know when they are in pain. So Kajsa was old and she was kind of cranky, and we sort of got used to it. She was a great pet and she provided me with comfort for so many years. Like, she was with us for 17 years. So needless to say, she was very old. But a few years ago, she did develop some kidney problems. And we knew, because this is what the vet told us, that she had about 2 or 3 years to live. And so we gave her special food and special medication, and at one point she even had a radiation treatment, so she was actually radioactive for a whole week. So these last few weeks we didn't really notice anything different, and I should point out that it's very difficult to notice these changes because usually they sort of happen gradually. We were so used to the way that Kajsa was, like, she was deaf and she had difficulty seeing, she often bumped into things, and she had difficulties walking. She was sort of dragging her legs sometimes. And we sort of saw her suffering, but not really. It's kind of difficult to explain. We just knew these last couple of weeks that her quality of life was just worse, all right? It wasn't a good life that she was living. And we sort of reached this point where you have to make a call that sort of goes against what you want, and you have to sort of make a decision that's what's best for your pet. And this is very difficult. You have to stay like really strong. I had to make the phone call. I called the vet and made the appointment to put my cat to sleep. And I had to pick my cat up as she was eating and carry her to the car. I had to carry her in my arms to the vet, to the room where she would be put to sleep. This was very difficult for me because one of the things that made me and Kajsa bond is that since day one, she's always sat next to me on the couch because she felt that it was safe to be with me. So I always sort of felt like her protector. And so doing this, it just went against my instincts when it comes to protecting my darling cat. But look, the way I would put it, when you do something for your cat that is very difficult, because most of the time when you're with your pet, your cat, because they provide you with so much joy, it's easy, it's simple to have a pet, to give them food, to, play with them and stuff like that. It's a very easy life. In fact, having pets is something that makes your life easier. You really never really have to make difficult things for your pet. And so I think that when you put your cat or dog to sleep because you don't want that him or her to suffer anymore, I actually happen to think that it's the most beautiful act of love you can ever do for your pet, even though they can't understand it. But the good part that gives me comfort is that Kajsa, she just basically fell asleep and she never woke up again. And she never knew she died, and she didn't suffer for the rest of her life. So we made that difficult call for her. So I wanted to take you through how this process goes, because for me it was very scary not knowing how it would go, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. It was the first time I had ever put a cat to sleep, going through that process. So I think it's actually good that people know what happens, and it's actually not as terrifying as it might sound. So first of all, they led us to a nice little room. It was sort of like a chapel. There were some lit candles. I didn't film anything because it didn't feel right to do it at the time. And it was a very comfortable room. And we put Kajsa on this desk, comfortable desk, and we sort of were saying goodbye to her for about 10 minutes. There were some tears. And then she was given a tranquilizer by one of the nurses there. And this tranquilizer, it didn't put her to sleep, but it made her extremely relaxed. Like it was like she had 10 Valiums or something. She was very, very relaxed and basically didn't react to us. And her tongue was hanging out, not because she was suffering, but she was just out of it, okay? And then she was given a second shot a couple of minutes later, which put her into sedation. And at this point, she was pretty much gone. Like she was technically alive, but she was still very non-mobile, so to speak. So after that, the vet came in. All this time, like there was just this nurse that was giving her the sedatives and stuff like that. But for the final dose, and it was also a tranquilizer, this tranquilizer was gonna make her heart stop beating. And it felt very quick. It felt very painless. It was really not what I expected. I had a much worse image in my head when I thought what we were gonna have to do. I knew for 2 days what we were gonna do, you know, and last day was just absolute torture for me because I felt so guilty about that I was gonna have to go through with this. But there she was, you know, we kissed her goodbye and that was it. When we walked back to the car, we drove home, and strangely enough, I didn't cry afterwards. I don't know why, but there was something about this entire process that didn't feel violent. It didn't feel like we were prepared. It wasn't shocking. We knew what was going to happen. And it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And it's been a couple of days now, and I still haven't cried anything because, like, I miss her every evening. I miss her. You know, it's very lonely on the couch. We still have Agnes, her daughter, so she's very playful. I don't think that Agnes has really noticed that her mother is gone. Cats are kind of strange that way. I don't see it in her. She doesn't really seem to care that Kajsa is gone. She just plays with us, you know, eats and sleeps, you know, typical cat behavior. But yeah, it's kind of lonely on the couch. You can definitely feel that Kajsa is not there anymore. I was really connected to Kajsa. We had this intense bond. First day I met her, it was the first time I went to see who was to become my future wife. First day I met her, she instantly bonded with me. It was my wife's cat, like before she was my wife, and she had her for about 2 years. And this was in 2009. And the first day that I met Kajsa, she laid next to me on the couch. And I remember that my wife was so moved by this that she started to cry because she felt that Kajsa had accepted me. And from that day, whenever we were in the same room together, she would always be near me. She would always sit next to me, lie next to me. We had a deep bond. And it's very sad when I think about the fact that I will never meet her again. I'm sort of hoping that someday, maybe I'll die and I'll meet her again on some cloud. I don't know, you know, who knows these things. But yeah, was a difficult week, was a sad week, but it wasn't as bad as I had thought. Again, it was because we knew that this day was coming and we did it for the right reasons. It wasn't out of practicality for us, you know, because this was strictly for her. It was just sort of difficult to get your head to accept it because you get a lot of guilt that you're basically killing your cat. But you just have to remember why you're doing it and remember that it's an act of love, and it's probably the biggest act of love that you'll ever perform for your cat. Anyway, just wanted to share my thoughts about that, and yeah, see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.